right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a Anyone's Legend versus FlyQuest rundown and also a Koi versus Bilibili breakdown. I believe that's day three. There's two best of fives tomorrow. Is there two best of fives tomorrow? Is that what the schedule is? Okay, tomorrow two best of fives. All right, so we're getting cooked tomorrow. All right, Anyone Legend versus FlyQuest. So FlyQuest, I think they. So my claim about FlyQuest, to break it down, is that I do believe that in terms of potential, I think that they are the best Western team in terms of potential. But my main concern about FlyQuest was their consistency, right? Their level of consistency and their output. And I do think that both sides of that was shown today. But I do think that FlyQuest came in at a higher level than I expected, right? So I think it's still fair to say, if you want to judge FlyQuest against G2, for example, I do think that FlyQuest looks a lot better than G2 so far. I feel like if FlyQuest could borrow caps for mid lane, I do think that we would have a very formidable, like very, very powerful Western team. Because I do think that Quad was a little bit of a letdown today in terms of some of his choices. Something to highlight right away is these Victor picks need to be taken out the back. Because in this game here, where they slam Victor into the Rise, it's a tough situation to pick a mid laner in, because you ban Annie, right? And in this game already, Cassio, Alzir is out, and they ban Renekton to prepare the Yorick. I think this Renekton ban that they held throughout the entire series was genius. Because later on in the series as well, it also lined up for the Mbessa, and I think Renekton is probably the most powerful champion for Bwipo that is standard. It's kind of the equivalent of, let's say, Broken Blade's Jax, you know? And if I look at the whole series, I think game one, FlyQuest played a very, very good game. I think Kael and, of course, Hope didn't start out well. And I think also Flandre had a rough one. Something to talk about that maybe we'll leave for the day after tomorrow is talking about draft and how some of these draft ideas from previous patches that people are still doing, they seem kind of outdated with the Prion, for example, Xin Zhao on Vi. But I want to have a little bit more of a data set to work with before we get there. Kalista is also another one, right? That you should maybe challenge, because some of they've gone through some patch cycles and they've gotten nerfed, and we see them lose plenty. But let's hone in on game number one. Game number one, I think FlyQuest individually, I think Masu performed insane on the Senna. I think that in terms of the decisiveness of Inspired, very impressive. I do think that FlyQuest was very snappy with their engages. And there was, of course, that crucial Rift Herald fight where AL just lost out. And I think there were moments where Shanks and Kael like lost summoners, and FlyQuest really, really leveraged it. Particularly with this game one, there was a moment on the Rift Herald that I think was the deciding factor. I think Shanks still had some good combos on mid, and Tarzan had some good mechanical outplays, but I think FlyQuest across the board just looked like the better team. Let's take a look at this situation here. Leading up to this fight, what I want to highlight is the fact that Kael has no flash and Shanks has no flash either. And while FlyQuest are late to this situation, I really appreciate that they are looking for this fight and using these details. Like, they are screaming right now, no flash, we should fight, we shouldn't let them have this. We're equally strong, we have full summoners. There's some elements here that go very well for FlyQuest. I think the wall is good for Anyone's Legend, and they should just walk away, but they're the ones pushing into the fight. And then here Kael just W's, I don't know what he W's. Like his W was very strange. Kael Hope limping here and not seeing the Orianna ult was really bad. And then the combo out of Inspired. Look at Inspired's flash cooldown as it ticks. And then he jumps, and then Tarzan with the beautiful mechanical play here as the Q hits, reduces W cooldown, and then he's trying to find something where eventually Inspire just chills here, and then he spots him on this ward. Inspire should have definitely walked away, but then W flash. The key thing here for me is that I did think that 3 out of 5 Anyone Legend players really, really played this game ugly. I think Xayah game is hard to play into Senna and Orianna, generally speaking. But I do think that Anyone's Legend needed to warm up before they actually started the game. It was a night and day difference as the series progressed, how mechanically sound they looked as things progressed. But still, I don't want to take anything away from FlyQuest here because I do think that they had a very, very good game. I think Mauser showed what he's capable of. Busi had also good engage angles, and this was the best squad game of the day. But in the end, you know, if you want to put the contrast between this and the game that G2 played, you know, G2 won a game against Genji, but I think that Genji, like G2's draft there, did a lot of heavy lifting in terms of covering the weaknesses of G2. While I think FlyQuest are capable of playing like you know, a very, very strong macro game that leverages their advantage. I think the main thing to highlight for me is that Inspired is insanely sharp at finding like angles and opportunities to gank sides in between objectives. I think this is something he did in all of the games. In game number 2, I think the draft strategy really needs to be highlighted. The Renekton ban into setting up the Yorick, I think, is really good. There is, like, I put Bwipo, you know, Broken Blade obviously had a very, very bad tournament. But I do think that Bwipo this year has been inconsistent. And similar to BB, like when these counter picks don't work, they kind of solo lose you the game. And he was so close for this, so close for this to actually be a good lock-in. But when the Yorick and Ryze are accelerated and Trundle gets the grubs out of the early game, I do think that this game becomes insanely impossible to play. And then as well with the Kalista lock-in here, I think if the enemy shows Nico, you need to pivot to Leona Nautilus here and not pick Renata. I think, sure, you're picking Renata because Trundle is showing, but I think that you make your lane too weak. And if you're playing Victor against Ryze, and Ryze has Prio, and Koki Nico also push against Kalista Renata, and then the Trundle jungle is stronger against Vi, how do FlyQuest get any traction in this game? We can look at the Mordekaiser isolated as an issue, but I do think if you have no push mid, no push bot, and weaker jungle, you're going to have a terrible time. Taking a look at this game, I think it highlights some of the biggest strengths of anyone's legend that I've talked about, and that is their vision for the game. They have a very, very clear vision for how they want to win and what are the important conditions. When I say this, a lot of teams, when they play strong compositions, they waste their timers for things that don't necessarily, you know, lead to anything. So let's say here, the options that they have after this blue buff invade that they did here with the Trundle 6, where they push out Vi, because at this point Trundle got 3 crabs, which means that he is level 6 very early. Inspired gets the Gromp. Here, Trundle bases, and he has options out of base. Ryze can match the base here and go home, because this 730 wave is, you know, a cannon. So you can match the base and go home with Trundle. But Ryze catches one more wave, and Trundle, if Ryze base together with Trundle, they could maybe play for a Raptor invade. And then if not Raptor, maybe they could play for the red buff invade. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to really win you the game, because Inspired could be on time, and he's going to be 6, and he's going to be 6 against 1006. So if you use your timer to press invade, maybe the enemy can set up for grubs. So here in the end, 1000 doesn't look to invade, doesn't look to press Inspired, because he realizes, yo, the important picture here is to make sure that you get grubs. He plans through, Bwipo has the same vision, Inspired has the same vision too, but Tarzan gets a smite, and it's so crucial. And the biggest detail here is that Tarzan, just because he got 3 crabs from earlier, took the blue, took also another camp here, means that he has the upgraded smite, and it made such a big difference here. And my point comes back to what I said before, it's just that seeing the bigger picture, they really want to secure the grubs, and that is going to have a massive impact on how good Ryze and Yorick is going to be able to pressure. So they get the 3 grubs, which is super, super nice. I didn't show the 1v1 kill here where Flandre completely dances on Bwipo. Let's take a look at this one. Bwipo uses his level 2 swing, and he tries to go. He misses the E. He misses the E here, which is of course super crucial. And then Flandre walks, and then he lasted enough minions to summon with the Q, the little ghouls. And then he walks through Bwipo to dodge the next Q. I have never seen something so rude. He walks through him to dodge the Q. That is plain and simple, just nasty. Later on in the game, there's going to be another all-in attempt for the Mordekaiser. And I'm going to show that. I think it was remarkably close from Bwipo's side. Let me show it.
but it's too late, and then here comes Tarzan.
I think we're gonna get to the replay. I guess we can show this play on bottom side at the same time. So yeah, Vi is just trying to gank through bot, and the minigame that occurs here when they are both playing around the Renata. I think here FlyQuest lose a lot of HP. I don't know why they don't send it here. Why is Maso not Kalista ulting? I think this was a big problem. They should have Kalista ulted here so Vi can go and send it and they push. I don't know why they let Busio lose so much HP and then they go back. And then they try to do the same exact play with Kalista ultimate. It's as if this is something that they reviewed in the middle of the game, you know? It's like, yo, just fucking Kalista ult and go. Like, let's kill this guy. Look at the little minigame here that appears off of the back of the reset. They're trying to stay with Busio alive, and then he doesn't get the proc on the Koki kill, and doesn't match the gank. And then with the solo kill on top side, I think we're going to have it in a replay here. Take a look at this. Here's a replay. So here, a detail here to highlight is that there was a patch change that made Yorick follow into the Death Realm together with Flandre, which of course is a big deal. The cage doesn't follow. Someone in chat seemed to be like a Mordekaiser Yorick expert, and he explained that basically in this matchup, what you look for is a Bramble Vest base on Morde, and then you look to all in, and then you only ult if Yorick puts down the cage. But if Mordekaiser all-ins and he still has the cage and can use it in the realm, then it's easy for the Yorick to kite, which I think makes perfect sense. Sometimes the chat is very smart. That's why, you know, I as a person, you know, I don't think that I'm, you know, smarter than everyone in the world, and I'm willing to learn from everybody. So shout out to the chatter that brought that up, because I think that information just makes sense, you know. And then Flounder just survives with a sliver of health. The Q heals him back up, and then the cookies are popped, and then Whip had no flash because he looked for the all-in, and the game is over. The game is just over. I don't think that the draft is horrible. I think the draft is just bad. But for the reasons I stated before. I think Kalista Renata into Koki Nico is going to be tough to compete with, and then the enemy has Rice Trundle. So the quad of bot side is just too strong, I think. Too strong. And I think Whipple's pocket pick, it was close to working, but he got outplayed. Here as well, I think FlyQuest, they ran out of answers into Varus, and I think that they overcooked. I think, I say it, I think that the prep work here of FlyQuest was very disappointing. I have to say, this Jace ban is so out of place. Like, what is that Jace ban? I think giving Varus up is ridiculous. Alzir Annie was open as answers into TF. Giving Varus, I think, is a big mistake. Even here, if the first pick Varus is going to be good, but at least if your Jhin answer is there into Varus, at least set up a case where you ban Sion. Like, you ended up banning supports in Nautilus and Bard. Bard I can accept, but Nautilus shouldn't be a ban. And the enemy gets a Sion blind here, and then you pick Cho'Gath. I get it. You know, there was a game where, of course, Genji played Cho'Gath Twisted Fate, but the context is entirely different. They had a Senna ADC, and the enemy team, you know, didn't have the same level of bulk, you know? And in the end, I think Viego is probably the only champion that can potentially give this draft a chance, because you have this problem that you can't kill tanks and you need to be stronger early because the enemy outscales you. So Viego is legit the only pick. Viego is legit the only pick. And I think this was probably the most impressed I was with FlyQuest today, because I think they made a very difficult draft work very well. I think Inspired was an absolute demon. There were some scenarios he could play better, but that's always going to be the case with Viego, I believe. It's like how you overreach, how you push, how you play with all your abilities. There's so many things to fine-tune, so I don't want to like nitpick, but his early game was brilliant. He managed to find kills to get ahead, you know, found some good, you know, map splits, which was super, super nice. And then there were some crucial fights that were just
the draw for game 3 and immediately
so close. Let's start one where they almost killed Braum.
Ready?
And it comes down to like eating Braum with Cho'Gath, and it just doesn't happen. Let's fast forward a little bit. I think this is the one. This is the one. Let me go back. This is a good angle from FlyQuest. Not this one. This is not the one I'm talking about. Let's improve the quality for your beautiful, beautiful eyes. Let me fast forward. Get out the can. Get it very competitive in this game. Here, this is the moment. You know, it's just so damn close. Because here, I think if Whippo gets his feast off, which I think he can, I think they get this reset and Inspired's ult actually makes sense. But Whippo, I don't know if he doesn't have range here because he's rooted, because he's auto-attacking, I don't know. Like, if he gets his feast off, I don't know if it's Whippo's fault or he's just out of range. Whatever it is, it's so damn close. If he gets his feast off, in my mind, my understanding is with your champion model, if you can auto, you can feast. But I could be wrong here. Maybe somebody in YouTube comments can correct me. But if he gets his feast off here, I think this fight is giga winning. But instead, Inspired gets knocked up by Wukong and Kael survives. And of course, Inspired's playing the crit vehicle. Regardless of which vehicle you play, you're not going to be tanky enough to survive this burst here. And then suddenly, AL get third Drake and, you know, the game flips on its head. But still, with this Nashor, there was still a fight that occurred in the game that was absolutely amazing. I did think Anyone's Legend kind of played the fight poorly, especially with how they use Bromult and Varusult. This is the lineup here for Soul. Take a look at how the Varusult will be shot here, and it won't connect with anybody. Tarzan jiggling around the wall, finding angles. There's also that problem that nobody can really kill Sion realistically, even though they're doing a little bit of chip damage, I guess. Varusult already used, and here Bromult comes through, and Busio didn't even use Alistar ult yet. I guess this is a very good opportunity for FlyQuest, even though the draft is weaker, much weaker here. I do think that this was very well played from them. And then Wukong gets the snap, and then here he just gets carded, while after his invis, I did think live that TF ult was the thing that revealed him, but it wasn't the case. Need to see how Busio actually uses ultimate, because it's a big deal. Let's take a look how Busio uses ultimate, because he's just, I think he just, Busio just kind of does nothing. The rest of the fight, I think Shanks finding the pocket is the most important part. That he goes over the wall and commits on quads, I think is really, really fucking insane. Really good play. Kael also following him. Hope with the flash over the wall to get feasted. I think it's kind of based because, you know, he dies to the feast, but Azir would die to the feast. And then here, you know, for sure you can nitpick the Viego play here, and he could play it a lot better, you know. But it's so unlucky, because it's Viego ult here, just because Azir is healthier, he pushes him away, you know. He pushes him away. And then Shanks gets the position. And then Shanks gets a quadra kill. And then the final fight of the game. I felt like at this point Shanks was just too powerful. In a realistic front to back, when the ults like Bromult and Varusult are actually used properly, I think it's such a big difference maker. But FlyQuest here, I think they just rushed in the play. Look where Jin and TF is when this play commences. And then Busio W's Brom out of all people. You know? He W's Brom out of all people. I don't know what that fucking does, you know? Like, you W Brom doesn't do anything, you know?
She jumps in, only hits on Kael though, and that's not really the target you want. Flyno going in with the double onslaught. This Chem Soul is secured by Tarzan. Bribbo's killed off Landre, the Inspired going for the resets.
I think Azir just does too much damage in the front to back. You just can't play a front to back because the DPS race is just not realistic at all, you know? It's just, you're not accomplishing anything in the DPS race, you know? Final game, I think, was just a straight stomp. I think final game as well. I think this draft looks like a draft I would see in season 3. Like I got PTSD from like rules that I had to set. It's like if I'm playing Shen, we're not playing Ziggs bot because we can't do shit in the game. I think this draft here, you have a losing mid lane. You have a Shen that has a hard time being active, in my opinion, because Ziggs is bot lane. I think if anything, I think Tabe masterclass today, bro. Getting Poppy here in the 4-5, I think is a crime. I thought the picking Poppy here, I thought Poppy top was the angle. Like, I thought that's what's happening. And then the 5 pick something, you know? I thought they're picking Poppy. Because getting Poppy here into your comp when you have Lee, Not, and Shen is crazy talk. Poppy is a very powerful champ that gets banned in the 1-2-3 in first series and first games too. I think also when Shen shows, it becomes even more painfully obvious. I thought maybe like Maokai Yon could be played here too, but if Shen is locked in, there's no reason to play Yon and just go Aurora Poppy, you know? I think Aurora Poppy is so damn premium, is so damn strong. There's not even a point of, you know, not even a point of even looking at the game. So, everyone's going to ask, Yamato, is FlyQuest better than G2? I would say so. I think Maso better than Hansama so far in terms of performance. I think Busio does some mechanical mistakes, but I think that he is playing macro at a very, very good level. I think his Spider is better than Skimond. I think Bwipo and BB, like BB set such a low bar that even though Bwipo wasn't great today, I can't with what Bwipo showed, like what BB showed, you know, lean towards him. That's why I said at the beginning of this conversation, if Caps was on FlyQuest, maybe that was like the best case scenario. But obviously, this is just hypotheticals. You know, Quad is probably important in many ways for Fly, so I don't want to start that conversation too hard. You know, Fly versus G2 is going to be fucking fun, but we will talk about that matchup when the time comes, guys. We still have MKoi versus Bilibili, and T1 versus Seafood Security Service. If I want to give a player MVP, you know, it's Shanks. I think he played fucking phenomenal today in all 4 games. Besides losing the Flash one time in the Talia game, I think his Rise game was splendid. I thought his Aurora game was brilliant. His Azir game was fantastic. I thought Shanks was fantastic. Let's take a look at Koi versus Bilibili. So I said that this is the highest upset chance. I think Koi, mechanically, individually, are worse than Bilibili. That's got to be true for any Western team, but for Koi, I think very much so. But I think MKoi's strengths align very well against Bilibili. Why do I say this? I say this because I think their early game is very cohesive. With Alvaro Alioya are much better as a duo than On and Beishuan. I think Beishuan is not that great. And I feel like Alvaro Alioya early game can actually put Koi in potentially winning positions against Bilibili. If Koi is not ahead in the early game, Bilibili will slaughter them in teamfights. But I think Georgia Pune is good enough laner, and I think that as long as MKoi draft strong 3v3s around mid, like let's say they have Braum, Zin, Azir as an example, or let's say they have Pantheon, Talia, or like Vi, Ari, Leona. Like, as long as they have strong 3v3s around mid, I think Knight, jungle, and support can't keep up. And I think if you shut down Knight in the game, you can have chances. And then, additionally, I think that you can push Bin towards champions that he shouldn't be playing. If you get Bin playing Rumble and Ambessa, or even Sion, you're happy. If he's playing Gwen, Jax, Yorick, He's playing Gwen, Jax, Yorick, Camille. In good matchups, run. You've not done your work. You've not done your work if he's playing these champions in good matchups. So leverage your bans to throw Bin off. In-game, draft a very strong 3v3 trio to challenge Knight. Connect with jungle support, use that as an advantage because On and Beishuan hate each other. If you walk into team fights, and Kesante too, Bin Kesante is insane. Please stop talking shit. That was a bit harsh. Sorry, it's 6 a.m. It's 6 a.m. and I'm tired. That was a bit harsh. But Bin Kesante is fucking insane. That's why I think MKOI, they have the highest potential of an upset here, because I think Bilibili is flawed as a team, and I think Koi has some strengths. I think AL is fucking fantastic. I think AL is really, really insane. So that's the one. Like, I think AL is super fucking insane, so I think it's just very tough to upset them. And then the other series, T1 versus CFO. I think CFO, their issue is that I think they are too unclean in their gameplay. This is a team that relies on individual skill and flair, and I think that the support is too one-dimensional. And I think Keria and Gumayushi will massacre Dogo and Kaiwing. I think they will slaughter them. I don't think Kaiwing is that good. He plays engage as well, but I think that is the dream for somebody like Keria. And I think that the advantages that this team gets are not going to be possible to obtain against this T1. I don't think it's possible. If anything, right, something to pay attention to is Hongkyu. This guy is fucking good. This guy is really, really fucking good. If they can start cooking around mid lane, because Faker plays a very lonely game most of the time. Like, Faker has so many isolated deaths. He dies to ganks, dies on mid. If they can isolate that and get into advantageous positions, maybe somehow. But I think CFO is going to get slaughtered. I think they're not going to get any entry into the game. CFO is too inconsistent in their setup, and they win because they have heavy flair, and I think that's not going to be possible here. And that's it.